What in the fuck have I woken up to?
Hey everyone, my name is Marcin Iwiński and I'm the co-founder of Projekt. When I started Projekt 25 years ago, one of its founding principles was honest and direct communication with gamers.
So this morning I awoke to see the internet ablaze with this video where Marcin Iwiński's posted a public apology for the state of Cyberpunk 2077 and offered some areas of explanation as to why the game launched in the state that it did and what they're going to do going forward. Irrespective of this apology video, opinions were already very divided on this game, some saying it's a work of art littered with a few bugs here and there, and saying that the PC and the PS5 experiences are actually pretty playable and it's just the last gen version that have been hampered by all the problems. Others straight up think this game is a demolished mess with far too much wrong with it to even justify getting through it. I have my own thoughts on the game, but since everybody else has put their opinions out there, I thought I wouldn't dilute the pool any further. But then I saw this. Now, I understand that an apology was due. After all, many people, including myself, spent our hard-earned cash on this game. And I do credit the company on coming forward and starting the mending process between the fans and the company themselves. But this speech, I don't know if Marcin wrote it himself or if he had a speechwriter write it for him, but whichever it was, this speech seems to have gone through the same approval process as the game. Anyway, let's take a look at some of it. I'll leave the link to the full video in the description for those of you that want to check it out without me ranting about it.
Hey everyone, my name is Marcin Iwiński and I'm the co-founder of Projekt. When I started Projekt 25 years ago, one of its founding principles was honest and direct communication with gamers. When Projekt Red, the game development part of Projekt, was born, it added something important to that principle, the ambition to make the best games in the world. It became our mission and something that guided us up until now. Based on that legacy of genuine and honest communication, you've trusted us and pre-ordered our game.
Straight out of the gate watching this, I'm triggered by it. You don't start an apology video where you're assumedly going to apologise for being dishonest by saying that your company's mission statement is centred around honesty and that you've been guided by a legacy of genuine communication and honesty. This makes me feel like going forward throughout this apology video, you're not going to take responsibility for the clear pattern of deception, concealment and general shadiness in the year that led up to the launch of the game. Shadiness that we perhaps all turned a blind eye to because at this point Projekt Red could do no wrong and were probably one of the most trustworthy companies out there. I remember having conversations like, oh, they've delayed it again, but I'd rather them delay it than put out a broken game. Well, how fucking stupid do I feel? Anyway, that better not be the case, Marcin, because if you start your apology video by waving the flag of honesty and then go on to make a disingenuous statement, well, my God, you are one ballsy motherfucker.
And despite good reviews on PC,
Ladies and gentlemen, the foot has been shot.
The console version of Cyberpunk 2077 did not meet the quality standard we wanted it to meet. I and the entire leadership team are deeply sorry for this, and this video is me publicly owning up to that.
Don't get me wrong, this game is a much better experience on the PC, but again, this is another statement of pure deceit relying on the naivety of people watching it. If you have a $2,000 rig bursting with all the latest tech, then sure, you could have a pretty decent experience in terms of running this game. The problem though, is most of us don't. What's way more likely is that you have a mid-range PC. It's not fair to assume that the PC version was a success when PC specifications are a moving target, and many people who played it on the PC will also attest to having a bad experience with it. Also, I imagine that almost all the people that you sent a review copy to will have a high-end PC because it's their job. Their job requires them to own a high-end PC. But as you know, Marcin, for most of us, gaming is just a hobby. Worse yet, the single and only reason why your review scores didn't look so bad at first is because you chose to only send PC copies out for review. I wonder why that was. Despite the PS4 being the world's best-selling console in the current market with an audience reach of over 120 million, you chose not to allow people to review the console version. Marcin. Does that sound like adhering to a legacy of genuine communication and honesty?
Now I'd like to tell you how the situation looked like from the inside. Cyberpunk 2077 is huge in scope. And I'm not only talking about quests or things you see at first glance. I'm talking about a multitude of custom objects, interacting systems, and mechanics. In the game, everything is not stretched out over flat terrain where we can make things less taxing hardware-wise, but condensed in one big city and in a relatively loading-free environment. On its own, this is a challenge.
But you chose to put all that in your game, dude, and to its own detriment, no less. Or at least you signed off on the ideas. What did he say? He said, a multitude of custom objects, interacting systems and mechanics, condensed into one big city and a relatively loading-free environment, rather than spreading it out to make it less taxing hardware-wise. Well, here's a suggestion. You could have done that. You're talking about the game like these limitations were not ones you put there yourself, like the game was delivered to you in that format and you had to bend and twist to make it run on available hardware. The game was announced in 2012, that's a whole year before the PS4 and the Xbox One even came out. Let's not forget that this was the planned console for this game to be released on. So at what stage in development did you not think to yourself, this multitude of custom objects, interacting systems and mechanics all stuffed into a city isn't going to run on the hardware available to the masses? I'm confused by it, mate. I'm really confused by it.
But we made it even more difficult for ourselves by wanting to make the game look epic on PCs and then adjusting it to consoles, especially old gens.
Especially old gens. Especially old gens. Are you forgetting that there isn't a new gen version of this game? When I play it on the PS5, I'm actually playing the PS4 version on better hardware. And by the way, it's still broken. Are we supposed to sit here and forget that this is actually a PS4 and Xbox One game, and the only reason why it released after the launch of the Series X and the PS5 is because you delayed it 3 times? Almost certainly because you knew the game wasn't in any position to be played on the consoles that you built it for. Also, this right here.
But we made it even more difficult for ourselves by wanting to make the game look epic on PCs and then adjusting it to consoles.
Let me just bathe myself in that sentence because this is the only honest thing that you've said so far. But nonetheless, foolish. Why? This game took 8 years or so to develop. I go back to the fact that PC hardware is a moving target. Brand new high-spec equipment dropping year on year. You said you wanted to make it look epic on PC, and that's fine. The thing about PC upgrades is that they will do the work for you. I mean, Half-Life 2 looks pretty epic on PC, and that game's 16 years old. But looking good isn't the problem here. It's all the shit you've tried jamming into the game, overloading it from every angle. If you were aiming to release the game within the PS4 and Xbox One lifecycle, then why wouldn't you use that as a benchmark? Because they don't move, they don't change. If you can make an excellent game that runs well and plays well on the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One, then it would have still looked epic on the PC. I'm trying to think of another example of a game that does this. I've got it. Your last fucking game, The Witcher 3, a masterpiece that shone through on the PS4, but my god, when you loaded it up on the PC, did it just take those visuals to a whole new level? Marcin, I'm sorry bro, but we both know that this is nothing like a valid explanation. Just say it how it is, man. Guys, we really fucked up. We announced too early, we were over ambitious, and realistically, this game should have been delayed until well into the PS5 lifecycle.
We had to constantly improve our in-game streaming system for all gen consoles. Streaming is responsible for feeding the engine with what you see on screen, as well as the game mechanics. And since the city is so packed and the disk bandwidth of all gens is what it is, it constantly challenged us. Every change and improvement needed to be tested, and as it turned out, our testing did not show a big part of the issues you experience while playing the game.
Oh no. That is bullshit. Why didn't you send it out for review then, pal? Look at the fucking state of this. I mean, did your playtesters even have eyes? Are you going to stand there and tell us that not one person under your employ who tested this on the PS4 didn't come to you and say, this isn't right? Or even yourself when you tried it out? And let's give you the benefit of the doubt and say by some stroke of good luck that you didn't run into any bugs and you had actually quite a playable experience. At what point did you not look at it and think, this looks like shit? If you look at the minimum requirements to run this game on the PC, it asks for 8GB of RAM and a further 3GB of VRAM. Now, the PS4 has a total of 8GB of RAM shared between video and system. We're talking about 11GB of combined RAM to run it on the PC on the lowest settings. Should that not have told you that the PS4 was going to have problems? I don't know, that just seems like it should have been a red flag.
Now let's talk about the review process. We started sending our PC review keys in the first days of December. On launch day, December 10th, we hit the ground running with a really good start on PC. While not perfect, it's a version of Cyberpunk we are very proud of.
Wait. Rewind.
The ambition to make the best games in the world, while not perfect, it's a version of Cyberpunk we are very proud of.
Have you been drinking? Come here. Let me smell your breath.
At the same time, we're fighting for quality on all-gen consoles till the very last moment. And every extra day of us working on the Day Zero update brought visible improvement.
Here's an idea. Why don't you not send a video game to mass production until it's finished? The fact that you were crunching on a Day Zero update is absurd in its own right. And I know that all development companies do this, but this is supposed to be an exercise in tying up loose ends, not attempting to make the game playable.
This is why we started sending console review keys on the 8th of December, which was later than we originally planned.
Also, because you knew that sending the copies out 2 days before the game launched meant that reviewers were unlikely to be able to finish a 30-hour game, write a review and put their opinion out to the public before the public had already purchased the game, therefore mitigating pre-order cancellations or tainting the opinion of people who were planning to buy the game on launch day. A perception which you guys allowed to be pushed to the public, knowing that it wasn't representative of the version that many of us were going to buy.
This all happened while working from home with all the challenges resulting from the COVID-related restrictions. A lot of the dynamics we normally take for granted got lost over video calls or email, and we took that hit too.
This is probably the only fair point he's made so far. There's no doubt in my mind that COVID hit them hard, the same as it did everyone, but if that was the case, then just delay it again. We know that you promised to never delay the game again, but which is a worse promise to break? The one where you promised us the best game in the world and gave us a crusty, cold Hot Pocket, or the one where you take the time required to meet the ambitiousness of your project? He then goes on to talk about the future going forward, how he promises that they're going to work hard to get the game in good shape, talks about the hot fixes that are already out and the patches that are to come in the months that follow. Like I said, I'll leave a link in the description to the full thing so you can check it out yourself. And again, I guess it's good to see them starting that journey of mending relationships between them and the public. But as you may have been able to tell from this video, this apology video triggered me pretty hard. Anyway, for that reason, I'll probably put that other video together of my thoughts on the game itself and why I think that Cyberpunk 2077 might be beyond the reach of fixing. But I'll save it all for that video. Above all else though, I just think that video game developers need to take notice of what's gone on here and not make the same mistakes that CD Projekt Red have with this. If there's one thing sure to shoot you in the foot, it's dishonesty towards the people who are invested in the things you create. Possibly more importantly, and the thing that might save us from situations like this in the future, is the video game developers being honest with themselves. What can we realistically achieve? What hardware will be available when we plan to launch? And how can we properly market it to our target demographic without blurring the lines of truth and fiction? Those are the questions that every development company should be asking themselves before they begin day one of development. Then on the last day, were we realistic in our goals? Is our product suitable for current hardware? And did we market our product truthfully to the public? If the answer is no to any of those things, just don't bother releasing, because you will get dressed down and fucked by the long dick of consumer angry voices.